Thanks for joining us for CBN News Today. I'm Heather Sells.
And I'm Ephraim Graham. Senate Democrats killed the controversial Keystone XL oil pipeline Tuesday. The bill was defeated by just one vote. But incoming Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is promising the legislation will be at the top of the agenda next year. Here's Charlene Aaron.
If not, on this vote, the yeas are 59, the nays are 41. The 60-vote threshold having not been achieved, the bill is not passed.
In a narrow vote, the Democratic-controlled Senate defeated the legislation on the Keystone XL pipeline. It came just one vote short of the 60 needed to clear the House-passed measure. A big blow to Louisiana Senator Mary Landrieu, who needed to prove she can bring the oil to her home state before a runoff election next month. She's up against Republican Bill Cassidy, who sponsored a similar bill that passed the House last week.
The main reason is it will signal a great sign that America understands that energy independence for our nation is possible. For the first time, and it's a shame that this Congress has not delivered more in the last 5 or 6 years for the middle class. We say we try. I'm not sure we're trying hard enough.
The project would move oil from Canada into the United States and eventually to the Gulf Coast. Supporters say it would create jobs and ease American dependence on oil from the Middle East. But critics argue the drilling would be harmful to the environment and that much of the Canadian crude would be exported with little or no benefit for America. Republicans vow to bring back the bill as soon as they return in January, when they will hold the majority.
Keystone XL is just common sense. It's a shovel-ready jobs project that would help thousands of Americans find work. It would increase our supply of North American energy, and it would do all that with minimal net climate impact.
All 45 Republicans supported the legislation. Only 14 of 55 Democrats and independents joined them. The Obama administration and Senate Democrats have blocked a vote on the $5.4 billion pipeline for years. Last week, the president strongly opposed the project.
It is providing the ability of Canada to pump their oil, send it through our land, down to the Gulf, where it will be sold everywhere else. And it doesn't have an impact on U.S. gas prices.
In political terms, Republicans have the upper hand and will likely force a veto on the measure next year. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Half of the nation is buried in snow this morning. The Arctic blast is making its way through the Midwest, and New England has dumped massive snowfalls in some areas. Buffalo, New York is digging out of more than 5 feet of snow, and it isn't done yet. Another lake effect storm is expected Thursday.
We are having some difficulty in obtaining enough tow trucks to help clean the roads of cars that are abandoned.
It's horrible. It's just backbreaking. The snowblower doesn't even do anything.
The whiteout conditions buried cars and stranded drivers. Meanwhile, freezing or below normal temperatures have hit all 50 states. Across the Great Lakes, millions are buried in snow, and today, forecasters say more records will be shattered.
Senate Republicans defended the National Security Agency Tuesday, blocking a bill that would have ended the NSA's bulk collection of American phone records. The bill was President Obama's signature proposal to rein in domestic surveillance. But Senate Republicans say such measures are more critical than ever, given the growth of terrorism abroad and at home. The legislation would have ended the NSA's collection of domestic calling records. Instead, the agency would have had to obtain a court order each time it wanted to analyze records in terrorism cases.
Israel is still reeling and stepping up security today after that brutal terrorist attack on Tuesday. 2 Palestinian terrorists burst into a Jerusalem synagogue and hacked and shot to death 4 Israelis, including 3 Americans and a policeman. Chris Mitchell has more on the story.
The gruesome attack during early morning prayers rocked the nation.
We are in the midst of a terrorist assault focused on Jerusalem.
After the attack, Israel's public security minister announced he'd make it easier for Israelis to carry weapons for self-defense. It's designed to help Israelis protect themselves and also cope with the growing fear that an attack could happen anytime, anywhere.
This is my life. I live here. I can't think about it a lot because it will just stop me from going places, so I'm trying to put it behind, sort of.
The Jewish people have been going through these type of things for thousands of years already, and our only real choice is to fight the darkness with light and choose life.
The two terrorists were from Jabal Mukabir, an eastern Jerusalem neighborhood that gave them access to Israeli social services, the entire city and country. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the terrorists were full of deep hatred and incitement against the Jewish people and the Jewish state. But he warned Israelis against taking the law into their own hands.
We're in a lengthy war against abhorrent terrorism, which did not start today. Terrorism has followed us through all the years of the Zionist enterprise. We have always withstood it, and we will do so this time as well.
Following the attack, the Palestinian Authority issued contradictory messages. Some analysts believe Secretary of State John Kerry pushed PA President Mahmoud Abbas into condemning the attack. His advisor, Sultan Abu al-Anain, praised the attack as a heroic operation. And his political party, Fatah, announced they would hand out candy in celebration of the Jerusalem operation. It was the worst terror attack in Jerusalem since 2008. 4 rabbis were killed, 3 of them dual American-Israeli citizens. A policeman died later from wounds sustained in the gun battle with the terrorists. Yitzhak Hesching was injured in the attack.
Everyone, everywhere is in danger, not just in Jerusalem, but everywhere. I think that what is happening is a very crazy situation.
President Obama condemned the attack and said it was a tragedy for both the U.S. and Israel. Despite what many see as Palestinian incitement, he said the U.S. wanted to help bring peace.
The United States wants to work with all parties involved to make that a reality and to isolate the kinds of extremists that are bringing about this terrible carnage.
In the meantime, Netanyahu said Israel would step up law enforcement and stiffer punishments for those who incite and increase security on the streets of Jerusalem. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
A U.S.-led airstrike has targeted a Syrian town controlled by al-Qaeda. Local coordination committees say the strike hit the town of Harem. Right now, we're working to figure out exactly what was being targeted. Meanwhile, more proof Westerners are joining the jihad. The French president says a second French citizen appears in the video showing the beheading of American aid worker Peter Kasich. The role of the 2 Frenchmen has not yet been identified, and a Virginia woman is facing charges for lying to federal authorities about her involvement with ISIS. Officials say Heather Elizabeth Kaufman used social media to promote the terrorist group. She tried to help an undercover agent get a friend into Syria to join the extremist operation. She was busted in a sting operation.
Gun sales are on the rise in Ferguson, Missouri. The spike comes with many residents waiting in fear of what will happen when a grand jury decides whether to indict the police officer who fatally shot 18-year-old Michael Brown. Gun dealers in suburban St. Louis are reporting sales of 2 to 3 times more weapons than usual in recent weeks. That is about 30 to 50 guns each day. Protest leaders say they are preparing for nonviolent demonstrations, but they acknowledge the risk of more unrest if the jury decides against criminal charges for the officer.
The battle over the Pledge of Allegiance heads to a New Jersey courtroom today. A family is suing Aberdeen Matawan School District. They say reciting the Pledge of Allegiance discriminates against children with atheist beliefs because of the phrase "under God." School district officials say they're merely following a state law that requires schools to have a daily recitation of the pledge. They say individual students do not have to participate.
The national debate over how best to teach history to our children is heating up in Texas. Late yesterday, the state school board took a preliminary vote on social studies textbooks, but it failed to pass the books it was considering. The final vote is set for Friday, and it could affect students across the country. Texas School Board Chair Barbara Cargill sits at the center of a debate that will shape how students view the United States and the world. She is fighting for a conservative, positive view of the country that emphasizes our heroes.
I think sometimes our students tend to take for granted the freedom that we have.
She wants pages like this that focus on the risks the Allies took in World War II, landing at Omaha Beach, to look like this.
We need to teach about America, warts and all, but not just the warts.
If Cargill and her forces win, they'll also favor textbooks that emphasize a Judeo-Christian influence on the founding of our country. They want biblical figures like Moses mentioned. They also want more accurate information on Islam.
In one of the textbooks, the excerpt says that jihad means struggle. And I think our students need to learn that jihad means warfare to establish religion.
Groups like the Texas Freedom Network prefer a more liberal view of the country, our founding, and Islam. They say conservatives exaggerate Christian influence and downplay mainstream concepts like climate change. For both sides, it's a fight worth having. Texas is the second largest textbook market in the U.S. Not only will this debate affect some 5 million school children here in Texas, it stands to affect millions more across the country as national publishers conform to Lone Star standards. At the end of the day, however, Texas parents can have the final say thanks to a new state law giving local school boards the power to buy whatever books they want. It's why Roy White founded Truth in Texas Textbooks, made up of scores of trained volunteer reviewers.
The end result is to provide kind of an Angie's List rating system for that family out in Midland or down in Corpus. We hope other states will follow the protocols, follow the procedures, go through the training, set their own, and then begin to add to this.
Such a rating system could save parents time and point out the omissions, biases, and half-truths that can easily slip into our kids' books. If the state board fails to approve the books it's considering this Friday, it will miss the deadline to get them to students by this coming fall.
Coming up, help for victims of one of the worst types of injuries. See how one hospital in America's burn belt is saving lives here and around the world. Thanksgiving is around the corner, and cooking that delicious deep-fried turkey does come with some serious risks. Deep fryer accidents cause agonizing burns, and that is just one source of the terrible burn injuries.
It is actually a widespread problem in the Southeast, and that is why doctors at the University of North Carolina specialize in treating burn victims. And as Lori Johnson shows us, they are saving lives here in America and on the other side of the world.
The UNC Burn Center is located in America's burn belt.
We have a lot of grease fires, house fires, occupational injury, scalds, bonfire type injuries. We just have more of all kinds of injuries that result in needing a burn center. And that's particularly down here in the Southeast.
Most burns are preventable, like the kind that come from getting too close to a space heater.
If you're not very mobile and you have a blanket, this can happen in an instant. Your clothes can catch on fire, and that can be very devastating.
Children are often burned when they grab handles that are sticking out over the edge of the range, so always turn those handles inward. And if grease catches on fire, don't throw it in the sink or outside. Instead, cover it and turn off the burner.
Overfilling a turkey fryer can cause burns, and never use gasoline as an accelerant.
A lot of our patients think that, well, if I don't have lighter fluid or any other appropriate way to start a fire, I'll throw gasoline on. It causes so many problems. You have an explosion, and then the patients will end up coming in with really a devastating burn.
Much of what goes on here is paid for with donations.
This is one of the busiest burn centers in America, and the people who support it wanted to take all this expertise and share it with people halfway around the world who desperately need it.
So they opened this burn center in Malawi, Africa, where far too many children die from burns. Dr. Anthony Charles, who works at the UNC Burn Center, started the Malawian clinic and explains why so many kids are in jeopardy.
They live in small, simple, just one room. And so all the cooking is all open fires. And so when you have open fires that is also on the floor, and people carry their babies on their backs, when they bend over, children might fall in. When children are playing, they might fall in. Sometimes at night, when you think everybody's gone to bed, a child might want to go to the bathroom and may accidentally fall into the fire pit.
70% of the patients here are children, almost all suffering from flame burns, the worst kind.
It's just like your entire skin peeling off. All the raw nerves are now exposed. And even just wind blowing across your skin, it is incredibly painful. This function of the skin, which is to keep fluids in, you lose that. And so you lose a lot of fluid. You get very dehydrated very quickly. And that's why patients die.
Although UNC runs this hospital, a big thrust is training Malawians to take the reins.
Us as Americans will never be able to fix all the problems everywhere in the world. We just cannot do that. But to empower the locals to fix their own problems is the way to go.
So whether in Malawi, Africa, or here in America, the UNC burn centers are saving lives and minimizing the pain and disfigurement of one of the worst kinds of injury. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Up next, the hip-hop star who is one of a kind, or perhaps we should call him an anomaly. We'll hear from rapper/actor/producer simply known as Lecrae.
He's topped both Christian and secular music charts. He's been on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon and at a birthday party for Billy Graham.
Who are we talking about? We're talking about the Christian rapper Lecrae. I sat down with Lecrae and asked him about being an anomaly.
How did I fall in this? No condition that get a mention, but you offer this unconditional.
All I Need Is You is just one hit single from Lecrae's latest record-breaking project.
The concept of the album is embracing the fact that you're different. You know, in many ways, you're going to be an outcast.
The album is called Anomaly, and it's just that, the first to ever land simultaneously at the top of the Billboard and gospel music charts.
#1 on Billboard, being invited to Sit In With the Roots on NBC's Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. Gladys Knight tweeting she's listening to your music and loves it. Why do you think the world is praising you?
It's an anomaly. But it's very obvious that it's God's handiwork. You know, it's very obvious that, you know, he's showing off and saying, hey, guess what? This independent guy, many of you don't know, who loves me, is right here. How did it happen? Nobody knows, because I did it. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, ha-ha.
The Houston native started his own record label, Reach Records, more than 10 years ago. This husband and father describes himself as something that doesn't quite fit. A humble hip-hop artist whose music doesn't glorify sex, drugs, or violence. Plus, he's an outspoken Christian.
Do you like being labeled a Christian rap artist?
I like being labeled a Christian. I think Christian is a wonderful noun and not a great adjective. I think the noun Christian is this person is a devout follower, and that's great. I think when you say this is Christian table or this is a Christian shirt, what does that really mean? And so I think sometimes it can actually hinder my personal mission by having that label on my music. Just because I don't know what some people say, oh, he's a Christian rapper, that means it's for Christians. Or he's a Christian rapper, that means it's not good. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
With more than a half dozen albums under his belt, Lecrae wants to reach all audiences with his music. Just a year ago, his Gravity project won the Grammy for Best Gospel Album.
Anomaly is your 7th album. How has your music changed since the first?
My music has changed in the same ways that I have. You know, I've just grown as a man. I think there's a confidence now in some of my experiences in life. You know, when I started out, I was just regurgitating things I was learning on the fly. So learning something, learning it, spit it out, learn it, spit it out. I've seen my children born. I've seen children die. And that shaped me. And I'm not saying I'm done, but the music has the residue of that shaping.
That residue includes the pain of being molested, abused, and taking a girlfriend to have an abortion when he was much younger.
I think leaders lead in vulnerability. I think you can trust a vulnerable person. I think the heirs and the guards are taken down. And people can find healing. You know, it's said that hurt people, but healed people, heal people. And I can talk about those things because I'm healed. And it helps other people find a sense of healing and to be able to go there and pull those things out of their own closets and deal with them.
Let me guess you count money to the ceiling. Difference between us like at least a couple million.
And the audience for Lecrae's healing message continues to grow. He made his acting debut in the film Believe Me. Just as Anomaly began its steady climb up the music charts.
The album wasn't for me, it's for everyone. You know, it was for people to be able to embrace being the people that God's made them to be and being okay with that. Not marveling at the anomalies that we've seen, like, wow, Martin Luther King, what an anomaly. But saying, hey, guess what? It's your role too, you know, is to stand up and stand out.
Very thoughtful man.
Indeed. Stand up, stand out. So nice to spend time with him. And the good news is he's going to be writing a book, so we'll get to have even more insight into his life.
Yeah, I will enjoy looking forward to that.
Indeed. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
And that's it for now on CBN News Today. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues that you care most about at cbnnews.com.
Tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do it on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Hope you join us again right here next time. Make it a wonderful Wednesday, everybody.